That's not in my heart. And like I said a few moments ago, I have a solid, demonstrable record of shared power that's real and concrete, that can't be misinterpreted.
Join Tavis Smiley and an all-star panel of political insiders, influencers, and journalists for a look back at the crisis that shook LA City Hall when 4 Latino leaders were caught on tape making racist, demeaning, and derogatory statements about black people and other fellow citizens on Monday, October 9th, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. The tape, 1 year later. We're broadcast live in afternoon drive from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. When all was said and done, was more said than done. 1 year later, are there fractures in LA's black-brown political partnership? And where do we go from here? Don't miss The Tape, 1 year later. Only on KBLA Talk 1580, Monday, October 9th, live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580. So excited to have in studio this morning. Yes, go to the YouTubes. We're there. The Deputy Mayor of Community Safety. She was previously announced as Deputy Mayor of Community Engagement. Now she's Deputy Mayor of Community Safety. She's got experience and expertise in criminal justice reform, public safety, and is launching a whole new office in the mayor's office. Was a leader in the nonprofit sector and philanthropy, and she has worked a lot with folks in the community, in government, and the private sector to improve socioeconomic conditions impacting families in California. Deputy Mayor Karren Lane, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, thank you for coming in. It's nice to see you. Talk to me about this Office of Community Safety. I mean, there's so many offices in the county and the city and titles and this and that. People get confused. Community Safety is a department that has never existed before.
Right. Launching the office really represents the mayor's approach to safety, and the idea that to reach safety, to accomplish safety in neighborhoods and communities, there has to be a comprehensive approach, and communities have to be at the center. And so my role is to help build an office that not only houses the mayor's initiatives around safety, so violence intervention, reentry services, diversion work, civilian crisis response. We're not just a collection of programs that are community-based and community-led, but also our work is to really influence the policy and practices of the city. We're really crime prevention and violence intervention and crime reduction, really getting at the root causes of crime and community harm are part of government's function. And so Mayor Bass, most administrations have the Office of Public Safety. We still have that. Those are the traditional departments of public safety, LAPD, fire, emergency management. But Mayor Bass thought it was very important that we not only have an office, but a deputy mayor in leadership to really elevate the role that the community plays in keeping neighborhoods safe.
And I'm glad you said that, because if you don't know city government intimately, people don't know the department, the difference between a department head, a deputy mayor, a project, and a whole new division.
Right. Yes. And so deputy mayors, we are part of the senior leadership of the mayor's administration. And so we provide leadership over departments, ensuring that departments are, meeting a strategic vision of the city council, and of the mayor. But we also have offices within the mayor's office that provides, again, that leadership over departments, but also special initiatives as well. So I think a lot of Angelenos are familiar with GRID as a mayor's initiative, the Game Reduction and Youth Development program. It's been in the city, one of the nation's first real effort to have government violence intervention to be a part of local government. So that program sits in the mayor's office. But again, like I said, it's not just about a collection of programs. It really is about changing how government functions.
It's not a collection of programs, but all of those programs fall under you.
Yes.
In this new Office of Community Safety. In what ways do you think like that relates to kind of the Care First model that we in the broader Southern California region have kind of demanded as voters?
Right. I think it's consistent with Care First. I think it's consistent with numerous ballot initiatives in the state of California where voters have said that they want to see more public investment in crime reduction, prevention, youth development, mental health services, drug treatment. It is a manifestation of that. And so we have heard clear from voters. We have heard very clearly from young people of where they want to see their public dollars. And so that is really what we're operationalizing, that community vision that we've heard time and time again that folks want to see.
So we always say we keep us safe. I mean, I guess that is something that we say around here at KBLA, and yet we're in a period of time when there's a lot of hype around crime.
Yes.
Right? We're in a big city. We're in a huge state. There's always going to be some crime. But I think between the pandemic and sort of the sensational kinds of reporting on some crime, the emergence of photogenic crime,
Right.
I feel like there's a little bit of a panic about how do we stay safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I've often been asked, so how will you measure the success?
Right.
Right? And I'm sure it's probably one of your questions. So there's different ways that we measure safety, right? The traditional way is like, let's look at crime data. How much crime has actually happened, right? But even when crime data shows that crime is down, it is the perception of someone's personal safety that drives the narrative around what safety is. And so, I think that's what we have to address. I mean, telling communities, oh, crime is actually not as high as it's been.
Doesn't help.
Even
though I think we got to deal with the data. We just can't
ignore it.
Right.
Right. And so there is some public education, but that doesn't negate if I don't feel comfortable in my neighborhood.
Right.
I was in Boyle Heights in the summer, and there were multiple shootings, unfortunately, in Boyle Heights. And there was a woman in a town hall, and she just continued to express with a lot of emotion, almost blaming herself that she didn't have the resources to get her child out of Boyle Heights. And even her recommendation was, let's have more resources to take youth out of these communities. And it broke my heart because what I think our goal is how do we make communities across this city where residents feel safe in their communities, that they feel safe, that their children are safe, that their children can access schools safely, that their children can access the resources that they need in their neighborhoods, in their community. And so I could not counter that woman's emotion with, well, actually shootings are actually down.
Right. No, of course you can't say
right?
that.
And so it's really in what we plan to do across all neighborhoods in Los Angeles is to do a community engagement process where we're asking residents, what are your perceptions of safety now? And what do you need in your neighborhood to feel more safe?
Right.
And I think we are intending to do that. The result of it will be a blueprint for community safety. One, as we're asking people for the solutions, they will take ownership of those solutions when they see us moving based on those recommendations in both budget and policy development of programs in their neighborhoods that they can own and feel and touch. I think perceptions of safety will change, but people have to be at the center of those solutions so that they can own them. And we know that when that type of work is done, it's transformational for neighborhoods.
Talking with Deputy Mayor Karren Lane. She's over the brand new Office of Community Safety created by Mayor Karen Bass, looking at how we, the community, what is our role in this? What are we meant to do to step up in support of this new department, in support of what we hope is a continued trend line toward a safer and safer city? It's KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Applications are now being accepted for the City of Los Angeles Emergency Renters Assistance Program. The program provides up to 6 months of rental arrears to low-income residential renters who are at risk of homelessness due to unpaid rent as a result of COVID-19 or other financial hardship. Applications will not be accepted after 6 p.m. on October 2nd, 2023. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and see if you qualify. Apply today.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
She's so smooth, so...
I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to me, Dominique DePrima, but in studio with me, Deputy Mayor of Community Safety. It's a new concept, Karren Lane. And I asked you, you were talking about this blueprint. How do we make a blueprint? Different communities want different things to feel safe.
Absolutely.
How do we make sure that our input is part of that? How do we access that project?
So in coming weeks, please, pay close attention to the mayor's social media channels. We plan to have about 20-25 listening sessions in neighborhoods across the city. In addition, we're doing polling and surveys. So there'll be ways to access that survey through the city website, the mayor's social media channels. And it'll ask a variety of questions. We want to know what people think about LAPD, what type of leadership, what kind of policing people do want. We want to hear about, again, what in people's neighborhoods, their built environments, do they want to see that makes them feel more safe? What kind of access to what types of services and resources. So it will be really a range of questions to get community input from across the city. And so we're looking at, very excited about that, to hear from residents and young people to really inform what we do in the office.
I mean, the mayor said to me that different neighborhoods want different things, and that's clear. So we also get to say what we don't want, because some of us don't feel safer when we see a lot of cops.
You'll be able to say what you don't want, what you do want, and we, I don't think we have, for me at least, I don't think I can predict what the outcomes of questions around policing will be for any one neighborhood.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. You don't know.
You don't know.
But so how do you implement that? I mean, it's. I think sometimes we go to town hall meetings and fill out surveys, and you say, well, how do I even know my input was considered or put into action?
Well, it will definitely inform how the mayor's office and administration functions. So you'll see it immediately in policy development, in budget development, and if we're successful, you'll see it in your neighborhood, right? I think one of the things that I'm most proud of, although it came from unfortunate events, we did have shootings this summer.
Yeah, it was a hot summer in more ways than one.
Yeah, it was a hot summer,
and some of those were at SNL sites, which are meant to keep communities safe.
That's right. We had shootings at a couple of recreation and park sites. Before or after Summer Night Lights. It wasn't all during the programming, which we were proud of, but it was, the day before or in the evening at the close of the programming. And so while that was unfortunate, what we were able to do was really to demonstrate, okay, we not only do we want to address the trauma that individual experienced and their family, which the city has done for many years, we have built the practice now, the operation of how do we deal with the community harm when there's violence. So we've been able to institute very quickly after those incidents, canvassing to other residents that were in the neighborhood who witnessed or saw that shooting. We were able to deploy mental health services for residents, right? Not only just the families that were directly impacted, but we were able to provide mental health services at those same parks. We provided healing circles consistently after that, right? So providing spaces to deal with community harm in a very different way. I think one of the, and so I lift that as an example because to me, for years and for decades as an activist, we've been arguing for that. We normalize harm in our communities, that we don't get access to mental health services. We don't get, we're not treated as victims or survivors in our communities. And so while we certainly never want to have a homicide or a shooting or experience violence in any neighborhood, what we were able to do this summer is actually build in as a function of government, how do you deal with community harm and that collective healing? And so those, to me, I would say, and even after at those very same parks where there were shootings, we had residents tell us we feel most safe when SNL is here, that we appreciate you creating space for us to talk about our harm. To me, that's how you'll know whether your input was taken into account. You'll see it in your neighborhood.
The office you lead as deputy mayor is the Office of Community Safety. And certainly we all want to be safe. As a Black woman deputy mayor, we want to see you succeed, right? You come from the community. You've been involved with some of our beloved community-based organizations. How do we partner with your office to be part of that success?
Well, one thing that I want to do is be accessible. And I've even been saying to several of, former colleagues and organizations, don't assume we have it. There still needs to be external pressure on the office, putting community demands, accountability. the Mayor's Office of Community Safety is really a reflection of trying to make local government accountable and responsive to all communities. And so the partnership is staying in dialogue with us. We'll take personal meetings, one-on-one meetings, invitations to engage with us in the community, at community meetings, community town halls. I mean, that's what I'm so excited about, us doing this community engagement process, is being in neighborhoods, us going into the neighborhoods to have those conversations and dialogues. And so that's really the partnership. We talked about Summer Night Lights. I want to invite more community-based organizations to be a part of that work. What we saw in parks that were most successful is when it wasn't just the intervention agency or the prevention agency that was activated. It was the network, that informal network that we know exists in most neighborhoods, that were playing an active role in their park. And so we want to be able to create more spaces and opportunities for those types of partnerships.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think that I was the director on the ground of Summer of Success, which was the precursor to Summer Night Lights over in Baldwin Village under then Community Coalition leader Karen Bass. And one of the things that made it work was that partnership between community-based organizations, gang intervention, which wasn't even official thing. They didn't get checks. And, even outside, even, people who were incarcerated who had influence on the neighborhood, partnering with neighborhood associations and law enforcement in a way that still centered community rather than an authoritarian outside in. How do you maintain that? I mean, that's not easy.
Well, one thing that we're looking at, one is how widespread SNL is. I think thinking about where Summer Night Lights is most effective, because it's a strategy around crime reduction and violence reduction, but it's really about creating community cohesion. Right. And so that has, I think, in the past, has become a proxy for programming at the park. But they're not the same. Right?
No, it's not the same thing at all. I mean, those SNL were targeted between the hours where crime happens most, based on Summer of Success, and where the zip codes, area codes, whatever it is, where it was most needed. Right.
And it's also a great example of what I was talking about earlier, that what we are trying to accomplish in the Office of Community Safety is not just standing up the programs, but it's also looking at how do we strategically deploy city services where they're needed. So Summer Night Lights is a strategy, but we should hold Rec and Park accountable for providing robust programming at all parks. Right? We should hold that department accountable for lighting at the parks, for conditions at the park. Right? There should be splash pads at St. Andrews Park. Right? So part of our effort is to work with departments to make all departments responsive to all communities to get what they need. Lighting, graffiti coming down immediately, dealing with blight. Those are all safety issues that we don't need to stand up a new program in the Office of Community Safety. It's about ensuring that, again, local government is responsive to the specific needs of neighborhoods and communities.
As I think I asked this to Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, but as somebody who comes from community organizing yourself, more than, a bureaucrat or, a lawmaking lens, that's got to be weird, right? Now you're on the other side of the table. How does that help you, and, and how does it make it tougher?
Well, I think it helps in that I have deep relationships across communities, so that's obviously helpful. I think I fall back to community organizing as a strategy. And I also, part of being a community organizer is that you're constantly pushing against the status quo. Right. And so I think that has helped. There's moments when you get a little fatigued with that fight. There's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. And I think what I've been pushing for in just the few months that I've been in government is, we are not just contract administrators. The staff that I work with, we are organizers. We have to be in the community. And so, I approach the work being very community centered and community driven. And it's challenging at times, but, there's no mayor I would work for except Mayor Bass, who is very much about let's cut red tape and really meet the needs of communities.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge job. A huge job. Okay, let's make LA safer. 4 million people.
Right.
If you had to say, for those that are still confused, okay, we've got community safety, we've got public safety. He'll be in here in a minute.
Right.
How would you define or, sort of the mission or philosophy of the Office of Community Safety?
Well, I think what drives me and how I describe it is once you've called police, once you've called the fire department, once a crime scene has been set up, once you call emergency, we've already lost, right? A family's been disrupted, someone's lost their life, someone's been harmed. So we have to have public safety strategies to deal with harm once it happens. The Office of Community Safety is primarily centered on how do we address the root causes of community harm and how do we prevent harm from happening. And when harm happens, that's the thrust of our work. But when harm happens, how do we help communities heal? Put the things in place where communities honor the resiliency of communities, right? And so that's really, I think, the huge difference between public safety and community safety.
It's not easy to prove that a crime didn't happen.
That's right.
You can't prove a negative. I mean, you can say, well, there were no murders, but what if there never would have been any anyway? And
right.
And you talked about how do you measure success, but what's a fair lens for us to process your work through?
I think the fair lens is people's perception of safety in their neighborhood. It's a subjective measure. Do you, as a resident of Los Angeles, believe that your needs are being met? Do you have the resources in your community for yourself to feel safe and for your family to feel safe? We'll obviously look at whether we have reduced certain crime, right? That's
before
a
and
given.
after, right?
But I think it's changing those perceptions, changing people's perceptions of their neighborhood safety, but also their perceptions of their government. Whether, in fact, LA, the local government, is being responsive. That would be the hugest, the largest success, I think, of the office.
So we just got a minute here. Let us know how to keep track of what you're doing, how to be involved.
Absolutely. We want to see as many people as possible at listening sessions. The dates will be available in the next week on the mayor's social media channels. So please, if you're not subscribed to her newsletter, Mayor Bass's newsletters, please go to her social media channels and log in, become a follower. We'll have dates, announcements, locations for you to become involved and inform the blueprint for community safety.
Thank you so much for being with us. Deputy Mayor of Community Safety, Karren Lane.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up, we'll be hearing from the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety so you can get even more unconfused. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Good morning, I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Mississippi, an independent evaluation of the Brookhaven Police Department found it rife with internal problems among the force. The 32-page report compiled by a police practices expert cited numerous issues, including manpower shortages and a lack of officer training. It comes more than a month after a mistrial was declared involving a case where a black FedEx driver was shot at by two white men. Costco is recalling 48,000 mattresses due to mold risk. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission announced the recall after customers reported 541 instances of mold from the NovaForm Comfortable Grand 14-inch and DreamAway 8-inch mattresses sold exclusively at Costco. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
MVP's bonus days are back at Lowe's. Shop Klein Tools and get 5 times the bonus points. Lowe's knows pros. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts. If any. Valid 9/18 through 9/29, subject to change. DeWalt offer valid through 10/11.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams played Cincinnati tough last night but lost by 3. Rams coach Sean McVay has a lot of work to do with his offense. The Rams made only 1 of 11 third down conversions and didn't score a touchdown until a minute left in the game. Quarterback Matthew Stafford was sacked 6 times and threw 2 interceptions. An arrest warrant has been issued for Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson. Police in North Attleboro, Massachusetts said Jackson missed a deadline on Friday to pay a $600 speeding ticket and complete a 4-hour class on reckless driving. Jackson got a ticket in 2021 for driving 100 miles an hour when he was with the New England Patriots. If I was Chargers coach Brandon Staley, I would order Jackson to go back to Massachusetts and take care of both of those obligations before he's allowed to play again. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. 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 What make you? Yeah.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Indeed, it does, and we're being joined by yet another deputy mayor in the studio. So if you want to see us, we're at youtube.com, KBLA 1580. He's overseeing the police department, the fire department, the Port of LA Police, Los Angeles Airport Police, and the Emergency Management Department, working across the administration and all city departments tasked with increasing public safety. Not much on your plate.
Not a lot.
Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Brian Williams. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Let me just first say I've been a fan of yours for many years, and I just want to thank you for giving a voice to the community over all these many years. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for coming in so we could talk to you live. And of course, you know, when you have a huge job, like, okay, let's keep the city safe. You know, a lot is expected and a lot is required from the different wings of the city, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Police, fire, they have their own emergency management. They have their own general managers, chiefs, whatever, what have you. How do you bring all of these kind of competing agencies together under one umbrella?
I don't know if they compete at times. My job and the way that I see it, and I think the way that the mayor wants me to approach this job, is to make sure that we're all coordinated, that we're all moving in the same direction. It isn't unusual for you to have an incident where you have to call the police and the fire department ends up there as well. Then there may be some other department that will end up there as well. So we want to make sure that everyone is coordinated to provide what I hope is the absolute best service they can to the people of the city of Los Angeles.
We just met Karren Lane, Deputy Mayor of Community Safety. You are over public safety. She kind of broke it down to us. Talk to me about what is the difference between those two departments and how they do work in tandem, if you do.
We do work very closely together, my good friend Karren and I. So community safety, as I'm sure Karren probably explained, is really leaning forward toward those unarmed responses, right? I'd look at the more traditional things that we're doing with police and fire and emergency management. But in my opinion, we have to work together. And hopefully, when we finish this job in 8 years, we will have the preeminent organization that has leaned forward and looked forward so that you're not always having a police response to incidents that don't require a police response, and that we could set the standard for the rest of the nation. This is LA after all, and what happens in LA really does set the standard for the rest of the nation.
I mean, honestly, I think we set the standard in a lot of ways, right?
We do.
We have over the years. And a lot of community-based organizations and individuals feel like we spend too much on just straight policing. LAPD takes up such a huge portion of our budget. How can we ever get to a care first model? How can we ever have different responses, i.e. mental health responses to a mental health crisis, a homeless responder going to an unhoused person crisis?
I suspect in the 1960s when President Kennedy said we're going to go to the moon, people asked that very same question. How are we going to do that? We did it. I think it is going to take ingenuity, and we have a great mayor who is a very forward thinker. I think we're going to have to put some resources behind this. The people have to get involved. We have to get the police department going in the same direction, and it can and it will happen, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to have to be coordinated between the various different departments. And there also has to be the recognition that this isn't going to happen from government alone, that folks in the community are going to have to do their part as well, and that is to engage with what we're doing. Karren talked about these community listening sessions. They have to engage in that so that we can better envision what this is going to look like. This is an iterative process for us. We're going to learn as we go along, but we do have a vision of where we ultimately hope to be, and that is to have these unarmed responses and a co-response model for policing in our community.
What do you think makes us safe, Deputy Mayor?
What makes us safe?
Yeah.
It starts with the individual first, and that is taking care of your personal safety. This is one thing that I know, and I've done this job. This is my second run in the mayor's office.
Yeah, I saw that you were deputy mayor under Hahn.
Once before.
Yeah.
And this is what I know, is that government is not going to solve all of our problems, that we have to take some self-care in terms of making sure that our homes are safe, that we take personal responsibility for our own personal safety, right? And to depend upon the police to resolve all of our problems doesn't make sense. It just doesn't happen. They aren't trained for that. And what happens all too often is that the response that we get from the police is not a response that we want or an outcome that we want. So it starts there. And then we have to make sure that the police, our fire department, and our other city departments, whom we as taxpayers pay for, are listening and hearing what our message is from the community. And then once we know what that message is, making sure that that is infused in their work plans, and then my job is to hold them accountable for that.
Hold them accountable, coordinate them, make sure everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction. You were executive director of the LA County Sheriff's Oversight Commission. Famously, that didn't happen there.
That was a tough job.
Yeah.
Now, my focus, of course, now is LAPD, but I will say this about the Sheriff's Department. They had been in existence for about 158 years and had never had oversight before. So we were a nascent group trying to wrangle this 10,000 member, 10,000 deputy department that had never had oversight before. It was a tough job. It continues to be a tough job. But just as we are working with LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department, I think, needed direction, they needed a vision, and they needed accountability. And that's what we try to bring with the Oversight Commission. The same thing we try to do here with LAPD.
Right. So you're launching a whole new entity. And of course, there's going to be growing pains, but it's also part of a national reckoning that we've been doing.
Right.
Part of a, hopefully, national movement to improve and upgrade what we think about and what we do to provide safety. Right.
And when you really think about it, we are in such a unique time. LA has the best possible mayor that it could have at this point in our history. You have a woman who'd worked on the George Floyd bill in Congress. She has a vision. She's been a community organizer. She knows our community, and she has a great vision for where we want to go. So now we're matching that vision with the infrastructure to really make some real definite changes in how we police our community, what policing means in our community. And again, I'll say this again, what we do here in Los Angeles, the rest of the world, the rest of the nation absolutely looks like, and we can literally change the world.
What takeaways have you brought from whether it be working as a deputy mayor under James Hahn, or whether it be the standing up the Sheriff's Oversight Committee? What takeaways are you applying right now as deputy mayor of public safety?
So progress is incremental, right? I think there are times when people want to see an immediate change, and it just doesn't happen like that. But if we stay the course, if we have a great vision of where we want to go, and we go with the ebbs and flows, but continue to look at that North Star, that we really can make a change. But change takes time, right? The city of LA, with this multi-billion-dollar budget, has been doing things its own way since its existence. So to come in and make an immediate sea change just simply doesn't happen. We really do have to take incremental steps to see the progress that we want to make.
Do you, it's interesting, you're a longtime resident of LA, you're an African-American man.
Yeah.
Probably, if anyone has good reasons to be concerned about our approach to public safety, specifically LAPD, it would be black men in this city. Do you think that changes the way you approach the job?
It's more personal than that for me. I have two sons, Brenton and Braxton, whom I'm extremely proud of. I wake up every day and I want them to be able to go about their daily lives in a safe manner. I don't want them to be stopped by the police and not survive that interaction. There have been far too many times, both when I was in the mayor's office beforehand, I was a criminal prosecutor for a while with the Sheriff's Oversight Commission, where I talked to families whom simply did not survive their encounters with police or with sheriff deputies. There are also occasions where I've met some of the best people I've ever met who are involved in law enforcement and involved in public safety. So the elements of safety, the elements of progress, the elements of folks who are really trying to do the right thing are there. We have to make sure that we elevate those people, that they too are aligned with our vision and that we move forward. So every day I approach this job with an effort to not just save the lives of the black and brown and other folks who are in our community, but to literally change the way we do policing in our community and, again, across the nation.
We're talking with Deputy Mayor Brian Williams. He is over public safety. Before we were talking about community safety. There are two pieces of a huge puzzle. When we come forward, I want to talk about that balance, right, between community, between the needs, desires, and perspective of law enforcement, community, and lawmakers, and how we keep us safe. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap for my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Dom Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and And we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to Black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Aisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth. Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Brian K. Williams is with us, and I want to ask you about the balance between the priorities and philosophies of law enforcement versus the community calling for a care first model, calling for, cops out of stops, calling for different people to respond to different crises. And I think about, like the example of like a Willie Williams who came into reform and was completely rejected by law enforcement. And so it's not just a philosophical balance, it's a balance of being able to do your job.
You're dating me a little bit because I absolutely know of Willie Williams way back.
Well, yeah.
that was a long time ago.
Okay, you could have read about it.
I could have read about it, but unfortunately, I was there to see it. Here's the thing. I think we spend a little bit too much time talking about what we want and what they want, and the majority of folks, ultimately, we all just want to be safe. We want to live our lives. We want to feel safe. We don't want to be harassed, but we want to be able to call someone in the event that we need some help, and we want to be able to survive whatever that encounter is. So if we can take a look at what those commonalities are and build our foundation based upon those commonalities and move forward based upon those commonalities, then we're going to see real progress. And I think that's the direction that we're going. Yeah, there are issues in law enforcement. There's no doubt about that. There are issues in our community. There's no doubt about that. But until we are able to discuss these things and to address them collectively, we're going to be at a standstill. And that's really not where we want to be. So we're trying to have this collective engagement with the community, these collective conversations with our law enforcement officials, and move this department and our community forward.
I want to go to the phones. Randy from Watts is on the line. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes, I think you're doing a pretty good job. It's 2 items that I wanted to bring forth. One item, I'm a courier, TSA courier for the airlines. And for the amount of truck traffic we have in the port, in the port of the LAX, you only got 5 public bathrooms for the truck drivers to utilize. That's been a problem for the last 4 or 5 years. Nobody.
Okay, and what's your other point? We have a short amount of time, so I want to make sure we get to both of your points.
Street takeovers. Now, Dominique knows I have the answer and I have the crew. It's already been proven. And Janice Hahn also knows me, and her dad knew me, and her brother.
Right, so Randy, what you're talking about, he's talking about Terminal Island or some set-aside space where people could do street racing without taking over streets and endangering public safety, right?
Yeah, we need to open up, and we need to start some collaboration on taking care of this, because I see it getting to be worse.
Okay, so let's get the deputy mayor's
and
take.
this is an area that I'm intimately familiar with, both from a professional and a personal level. I was caught in a street takeover about a month and a half ago off of Avalon Boulevard in Compton, and we were stuck there for perhaps maybe 45 minutes before there was a law enforcement response, and they sort of broke things up.
And you're the deputy mayor
I'm the deputy
of
mayor.
public
Nothing
safety.
I could do about it, right? And then when I was with the Sheriff's Commission, we looked at this issue over and over again. So this is one that is being fueled so much by social media, by the way, just as the smash and grab robberies have been fueled by social media. You get young people together. They are saying, okay, in 7 minutes, meet us at this particular location, and law enforcement simply can't catch up. And when they do catch up, they have to come in sufficient numbers to try and disperse the crowd and do what they can. So this is a difficult issue that we're working with. There are no easy answers.
But it seems like an issue we're never going to suppress our way out of. Like, why can't we provide a space for folks to go drive fast and hang out and bother each other instead of the regular pedestrians and people going about their lives?
That's a great question. It's something I can raise with our deputy mayor who handles the areas down there in the ports. But again, I don't think it's going to be something as simple as that. This is not new, by the way. This has historically happened in Los Angeles in the 40s and in the 50s.
Right, but we used to have places where people could go and do it. It might not have fixed the whole problem, but it's going to fix part of the problem.
You had places where people could do it, and it still happened in intersections. There was still street racing down Sepulveda, down Van Nuys, down King Boulevard, despite the fact that those places were there. So ultimately, I think it boils down to some personal responsibility of folks of disavowing people of that belief that they can take over these intersections, their need to take over these intersections, and there has to be some consequences for taking over those intersections as well. So we can't.
When you say consequences, you're talking about jail and stuff like that.
No,
the usual consequences.
Nope, you said jail.
Well, yeah, I mean, because that's what happens to people. You get arrested, you're not allowed to do it. And I'm not saying they should be like, oh, let's give them a gold star for, messing up somebody's life, taking over an intersection. I'm just saying, I feel like we haven't made any shot, at least that I'm familiar with, in providing an alternative.
Alternatives are important, and when I talk about consequences, I was really, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, well, do you still have the ability to drive, to have a license, right? Do you still have the ability to register your car? Jail is not going to solve anything.
Well, yeah. Although you got to wonder how concerned they are about having a valid license if they're willing to take over an intersection and do donuts.
If you don't have that license, how are you going to apply for a job?
Yeah.
If you don't have that license, how are you going to do it? Just live in society. So there are non-jail consequences that we can look at for this issue that is plaguing LA and other communities as well. But it's a historic issue. There are no easy answers, but it's one that we'll have to look into.
And who should Randy complain to about the bathrooms at the port for the truck drivers?
I'll have to find out who's in charge of the bathrooms at the ports.
Okay, he'll get back to us on that, Randy. I will let you know when I know. What does keep us safe? I mean, if you're going to give a philosophy, an outlook, a goal of your department from your perspective as deputy mayor of public safety, what would you say?
So we've spent the majority of this interview talking about police, but my portfolio also includes the fire department and the emergency management department. And I think there was no greater example of the need for us to have some self-responsibility here in terms of keeping us safe when we had the triple threat of a hurricane that we'd never seen in Los Angeles, which turned into a tropical storm, an earthquake during the middle of that, right? We had a hospital that had to be evacuated. And then we had a busload of asylum seekers that came to town all within a 3-day period. So what keeps us safe, number one, is that you have to be prepared at home. So public safety includes being prepared for earthquakes and other natural disasters that happen in our communities. So making sure that you have an earthquake kit. If you're a homeowner, or even if you rent, making sure the house is bolted to its foundation. The simple things that we can do, right, to make sure that we are prepared in the event of an emergency. If you're going out to walk your dog, you're going out for a morning jog, being aware of your surroundings, but also engaging in the local, we'll talk about law enforcement now, engaging in the local police activities boards or the local police community boards. When you have a voice there, they listen. They really do listen, but you have to stay engaged. If we're just going to sit back and battle one another back and forth over and over again, we're really going to stay at the status quo. And we have to move forward. And the way to move forward is that people power has to be engaged there. You have to be engaged in what we're doing because your voice is heard then. And when your voice is heard, changes happen.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that hurricane. The latest guidance is you get under a strong piece of furniture, right? You don't stand in a doorway.
I don't know if there was guidance for a hurricane and an earthquake at the same time. I think prayer is the first thing you got to do.
Right.
Yeah, but you do want to brace yourself. You want to get away from windows. And again, I can't emphasize enough having an earthquake kit at your home. If you think about when COVID hit and there was that run on food, the run on toilet paper, imagine a major disaster in Los Angeles where the ATMs, for example, are shut down.
Right.
Or
gas stations too, by the way.
Gas stations are shut down.
For those of us who like to run on fumes.
Exactly. Gas stations are shut down and you won't be able to use your credit card. So you want to have some food and other provisions and medicines and pet food at your home in the event of a natural emergency.
Yep. It comes in handy anyway.
It does.
So we just got a couple minutes here. Brian K. Williams. What do you've told us, okay, we have our own responsibility. We got to take personal measures to ensure our safety. What helps you help us?
Hearing your voice is important because I think you can get caught in the echo chamber of City Hall doing what you're doing and sort of forget what it is that's happening. Quick story, my brothers and I were driving to Las Vegas recently, and we stopped at a gas station to get some gas, and I was the driver. So I got out of the car. Instead of immediately getting the gas, I went inside of the convenience store and I bought those things that you have to have for a trip to Vegas, Twinkies, Twizzlers,
right.
Since we're health food nuts, Diet Coke, right? Got back in the car and I took off. I forgot to pump the gas. I had essentially forgotten my purpose for being there. I don't ever want to forget my purpose for being in City Hall. And to do that, I have to maintain contacts and interaction with the community to remember what our purpose is. And that is to serve the people of Los Angeles.
So we got to speak up.
Got to speak up.
Yeah. And, we don't even really have time to talk about this, but you mentioned the smash and grabs. It seems like we put so much emphasis, money, and focus on a smash and grab and protecting purses that we forget about, the day-to-day.
Right.
Our unhoused people, our kids going to and from school.
Right. That's why LA is lucky to have a mayor like Karen Bass, who doesn't forget. And daily she reminds us that, in fact, there are unhoused people in our community, people who are suffering. And the biggest job of government, in my opinion, is to make sure that people are safe. In my opinion, is to make sure that people are able to go about their lives and that we take care of the least of these in our communities. And so that's our North Star. And that's really what guides us on a daily basis.
And we can keep track of you so you can hear our voices all the
Absolutely.
time. You're on socials?
I am.
Brian K.
Williams. That's
all
it.
Right. Brian K. Williams, I'm sure you'll be hearing from the KBLA delegation.
Looking forward to it.
And I hope you'll come back again. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for the time.
Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got an incredible show, like always, on a Tuesday. I'm Dominique DePrima. History is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, be safe. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Good morning, I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Mississippi, an independent evaluation of the Brookhaven Police Department found it rife with internal problems among the force. The 32-page report compiled by a police practices expert cited numerous issues, including manpower shortages and a lack of officer training. It comes more than a month after a mistrial